Welcome to Mock the Mock, where we take a look at someone else's mock draft and I mock and give you my views, thoughts, and opinions. And I got a great one for you today. We're going to be traveling over to CBS. And I know they're not known for the best mock drafts, but I guarantee you this one's a banger because it's the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Renner dropping a mock draft for us. So let's go ahead, get into this sucker. Special thanks to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video. If you sign up using promo code Broshmo, then they will match your first deposit up to $1,000 dues. More on them a little bit later, but with pick one, the Tennessee Titans go with Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. And if you're the Titans, you're not satisfied with the quarterback position. The Mayo Man has let you down. You need someone moving forward. You're going into year 2 of Brian Callahan. He probably wants to draft his guy. Regardless of how you feel about the quarterback class, quarterbacks typically always go earlier than where most people have them on their boards. Like if you have a quarterback that he's like maybe the 17th or 20th best player in this class, they're probably going to go in the top 10. That's just how the quarterback position works. That's just how valuable the position is. And I think Cam Ward is worth taking the swing of the bat. I think he has some high-end tools. I think he's someone that can create by himself with just very good athleticism. And he's a big play maker. I know you're going to worry about some of the turnover-worthy plays, back-to-back games with pick sixes. Ball placement isn't always ideal, but I think it's pretty darn good given where he is at when it comes to his footwork and whatnot. So and Ward's been someone that has steadily progressed and improved year after year, going back to Incarnate Word, going to Washington State, and then this final year at Miami, which, hey, that might that might make you feel a certain way. Say a Jaden Daniels, who improved marginally over the course of his career at Arizona State, goes to LSU and then has the big breakout year in his final year with LSU. So I'm not drawing a comparison there because they are very different prospects, but I'm just saying in terms of the development, we kind of saw marginally getting better and then big breakout year. And I feel like Ward kind of had something similar to that. All right, we got the Cleveland Browns here at pick 2. They go with Abdul Akata, edge out of Penn State. I'm going to read this one. Let's see. Pairing Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett is too scary of a proposition for the Browns to pass up. I don't disagree with that. It was a slow start, but by the end of Carter's first year as an edge player for the Nittany Lions, he was unblockable. Carter racked up 44 pressures on his final 9 games, including 8 in their playoff loss to Notre Dame. So yeah, Abdul Carter, I think, is edge 1 in this class. I think no one's going to really dispute that. And yeah, I mean, dude, I get it. Deshaun Watson, he got the Achilles problem. Now it's likely he's out next season. He had the setback, and you're just sitting there dying to get off of that contract, right? You're just dying to get off of it. But this might not be the quarterback class to go quarterback, especially with one already off the board, depending on how you feel about Shedeur Sanders. Because it's not with Cam Ward, at least it's oh, there's some tools there. He's got a big arm. He's got some good mobility. With Shedeur, it's he has a moderate arm, I think, for the NFL, which is fine. You can certainly be good in the NFL. You look at guys like Brock Purdy and Joe Burrow. But I think his pocket presence is going to scare away a lot of teams. And you could be oh, well, his offensive line wasn't that good. And it's it was actually pretty improved from 2023. That's not, or from 2022. 2023 season, excuse me. So let's not pretend it was garbage this year. It wasn't. It was pretty middle of the pack. Maybe he has some PTSD from 2023 season, but that is something that's going to need to improve for Shedeur. And again, it's not I'm not trying to take the wind out of his sails, because as a prospect, I think as a quarterback prospect, I think he's the best pure passer in this class, in my opinion. So there's definitely a lot of good, but there are some real concerns. And you could literally say some of the same stuff with Cam Ward. All right, pick 3. We got the New York Giants going Travis Hunter. I'm actually kind of shocked that this isn't quarterback, because you would figure that Brian Daboll, Joe Shane, they're on the hot seat, and they probably got one more year left. So why not take that swing at a quarterback? But you could also make the case, why draft a quarterback knowing that you're not going to reap the fruits of that labor, knowing that, okay, well, we're probably not going to be good next year with a rookie quarterback. We're just going to get fired. So there is a good case to be made not to go quarterback if you're not sold on quarterback 2 in this class. Instead, going with the best player available, Travis Hunter, which I think this is a unique spot where you primarily want to play him as a corner. You want him to be your top corner next to whoever it is, whether it's Banks or Flott. They could kind of decide. Maybe even Trey Hawkins gets into the conversation. That man just got to stay healthy. He's got some impressive performances. Former Old Dominion player there. But then you could moonlight Hunter as a wide receiver. And I think, honestly, that's the best fit for him. But again, you don't know with Hunter, is he going to follow the money? Because I still think he's a pretty darn good receiver. I think people sleep on his ability as a receiver. But very fascinating pick here for the Giants. Hopefully you're going to get something done about quarterback done with the quarterback position in free agency. New England Patriots are going to go with Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. I don't think there's no denying that Will Campbell might be, all in all, the best offensive lineman in this class. I have some reservations about moving him regard. I know people will probably look at the arm length, which I assume is going to be sub 33 inches, and think, oh yeah, he can't play a tackle unless you're an elite athlete like a Rashawn Slater or Penei Sewell. Because like Pierce Grosky was a pretty good athlete. He wasn't like the level of like Slater or Sewell, but he was a really good athlete. And the Titans just were like, nah, you're a guard. And I don't think Campbell is going to be on terms of athleticism with Skoronski. I think he might be just a tick below, or maybe he is on par. But even then, that ended up being a guard in the NFL. I think he plays really high, which kind of like, you're already 6'6", and you play with a high pad level. I don't know if I love that for the guard position. I would just send it at tackle. If you're the Patriots, you just want a good offensive lineman, and that's what Campbell is. He's a really good offensive lineman. Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go with Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. I'm cool with this pick. Like, for me, you could go a variety of different spots, and I think defensively, in particular, I really want a good, whether it's a corner, whether it's someone to help with the pass rush and the run defense. In this case, it's the pass rush with Mason Graham, who can really get after it. And suddenly you're feeling really good about that rotation on the interior with guys like Eric Armstead and Mason Smith. So I think it's a fun pick. I think it's a fine pick. I like it. And plus, I mean, we got the injury concerns with Will Johnson. Just wasn't that healthy this past season. Pick 6, Raiders, and it's Shedeur Sanders. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? I don't know if he makes it here to 6. Some team's going to move up and I think trade for him, or maybe this class gets, maybe this ends up being like was it the 2022 class where only one quarterback went in the first round? It was Kenny Pickett, and it was at like pick like 17 or 20. I can't remember, but I think the top talent in this class is better than what that 2022 class was. I'm going to go out on record and say that. And I am willing to take a Shedeur or a Cam Ward in the first round. Do I feel great about it in the top 10? Not necessarily, but if you have a need at the position, a dire need, then I would definitely swing the bat. I think if you have a longer leash, I would go for the tools with Cam Ward. If you're a bit on the hot seat, I'd probably go with Sanders and hope that you can protect him and just kind of bank on just his ability as a passer, the quick processor, and just kind of hope he brings some consistency to your offense. And I think that could be the case for the Raiders. The Raiders offensive line is trending, I think, in the right direction. And I mean, I love what they've done with it. You still got Colton Miller, who maybe not be playing like a top 10 tackle in the league, but he's certainly an above average starter. I still think he's got that top 10 dog in him. We'll see it every now and then. You have who I loved, Jackson Powers Johnson, loved him. DJ Glaze is far ahead in his development than I anticipated. Dylan Parham's playing good football. And then you still can work out the other, I'll say offensive line spot, because you have Andre James who could be your center, and then you play JPP at guard, or you can kick JPP to center and play Jordan Meredith at guard, who I think he did a solid job this year, and you should bring him back. So I think the Raiders offensive line's in better shape than most of the league, and grabbing Shadur I think would be a big plus, because like get some consistency at quarterback and you're able to protect him. I just don't know if you can get him here at 6. I just don't. All right, we got pick 7. Kelvin Banks Jr., tackle out of Texas, going to the New York Jets. I kind of like this because Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith, they're gone. You're looking to plug up your other tackle position. Olu Fashanu looks like your left tackle of the future, but honestly, you could play him on either side. Banks, he's going to shore up that other tackle position. I think he's a tackle in the NFL. He's got the necessary length. I think he moves well. I like the play strength. He's kind of a brick house. So I like this. You're giving attention to the offensive line. I would swing on Will Johnson. I love Will Johnson. Pairing him up with Sauce just sounds too undeniably sexy to pass up on. You could also make a case for Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona, the wide receiver, pairing him up with Garrett Wilson. But also, we need to figure out this offseason what's going to go on with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Like, before we truly can get an idea of what's going to be done with this pick, we need to know what happens there. Pick 8, Carolina Panthers. They're going to go with Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. And golly, man, I think the Panthers are going to have one of the bigger wide receiver cores in the NFL, with guys like Xavier Legette and you got Jalen Coker. So like, they got some real size at the wide receiver position, and you just continue to give Bryce Young all the weapons that he needs. And I mean, there was a lot of encouraging signs for Bryce Young during that. Like, I think he started with the final 8 or 9 games, and I'm like, thank goodness, dude. Thank goodness. I thought he was broken beyond being repaired. That is not the case. And I'm very excited to see moving forward with Canals how things work with Bryce Young, and you're just going to continue to give him more weapons here. I don't mind it. I would prefer to go get talent on the defensive end, because I think that defense is just a bottom of the league unit, and you need to elevate the ceiling of talent. You like the NFL draft. Matter of fact, you love the NFL draft, which means you're going to love my draft guide. If you want to know every player your team drafts or even signs as an undrafted free agent, then this is for you. My draft guide updates every day, and you'll be able to see those updates in real time as I add new evals and player backgrounds. It'll have analytics from this year and last year. It'll have the pro day and combine numbers. It'll even have my notes from the Senior and Shrine Bowl. It's a one-time purchase of $30 via PayPal, Venmo, or the Cash App. You can check out the pinned comment or the description if you want to follow those links. And when you do purchase it, please be sure to include your email, because it is a Google spreadsheet. So I'm going to require your email. Don't make me hunt it down, because I will hunt you down. I will find you, and I'll make sure you get your money's worth. Anywho, thanks for supporting the channel. At number 9, we have Mikael Williams, edge out of Georgia, going to the New Orleans Saints. And to be fair, like, I think if this was Dennis Allen, he totally fits the profile of what Allen wants in his defensive ends. However, there's going to be a new coaching staff in place there. Don't know what's going to happen from the offensive end with Clint Kubiak and such, but we know we're going to get a new defensive coordinator in there, or maybe even a defensive minded head coach. So we might see a change of philosophy defensively. Regardless, though, Mikael Williams has got the kind of tools that go in the top 10. It's just the production hasn't been there yet. I think he was starting to trend in the right direction prior to the high ankle sprain, and he kind of just battled with that for most of the season. So still, the production's not there. There's still some rawness to his game as a pass rusher. I don't think he exactly has the tools of like a Travon Walker, but I don't think he's going to be that far behind. All right. We got pick 10. The Chicago Bears are going to go with Ashton Jeanty, running back. out of Boise State. I love this pick. Now, you're going to have to address the offensive line in free agency, and I think that's what he says in this first line. With a ton of cap space, this is Mike Renner talking, expect the Bears to address the offensive line elephant in the room in free agency. Once the box is ticked, Ashton Jeanty would be the perfect complement to Caleb Williams' athleticism in the backfield. He's a 3-down back with elite tackle breaking ability, and I agree. I don't know what the contract... We could take a quick look at DeAndre Swift's contract real quick. Take a look at the contract, see when we can move on from him. I think you can move on from him after year 2. I think that's kind of where it's at. It's not like it's a beefy contract, 3 years, $24 million. Yeah, you're probably moving off from Swift after 2025. But you could bring Jeanty into the fold, have that be your 1-2 combo, and then bye-bye Swift in 2025 or after the 2025 season, and Jeanty, he's your main back. So I don't mind it. If you don't love the offensive line talent in this class or at this juncture, or maybe you're not sold on an edge player, I don't mind swinging for Jeanty, especially if you take care of the offensive line in free agency. All right, we got the San Francisco 49ers going with James Pierce Jr., edge out of Tennessee. I think the trenches is where the Niners will go, whether that is at the tackle position on offense or just somewhere along the defensive line, edge, interior. I think whoever's highest on your board, take a swing for it. In this case, I love the Pierce pickup. He's not necessarily going to be an early down player, I think, at the beginning of his career, though he did make some improvements as a run defender. He does need to continue to add more size. But I think at least going forward, if you could develop that aspect to him, he's such an explosive, scary pass rusher to have next to Nick Bosa that he's going to produce. So I like that. Okay, Dallas Cowboys. We got them going with Josh Connerly Jr., tackle out of Oregon for the Cowboys. Okay, I get that. I mean, they got Tyler Guyton. He's a tackle. Terrence Steele, that is a question. I want to take a look at his contract, because to be fair, he got hurt or banged up like a couple of years ago, right? And just hasn't really been the same productive player since that. Let's see. You can move. Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, no, this is you're gonna have to rework this contract because the extension happened back in 2023. I mean, maybe you can move it from 2026, but I mean, if you're not satisfied with his play, like sunk cost fallacy, you don't have to stick with it just because you already invested money in it. So you could go with Connerly Jr., who is flying up draft boards. He is. Todd McShay's huge on him. Apparently, Mike Renner is pretty big on him as well. Those are two opinions when it comes to the NFL draft, football in general, that I trust tremendously. So, like, for the Cowboys, though, feels is interesting. I'll just say that. Okay, we got Malachi Starks going to the Miami Dolphins. Javon Holland's a free agent. Starks would be a good fit for Anthony Weaver in this defense, but like, oh man, like the Dolphins, they could go edge here and I'd be okay. Shoot, Will Johnson's still on the board. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I might be, if Will Johnson got past here, the Jets, I'm thinking Will Johnson for the Panthers. I'm thinking him for the Saints. Adebo's a free agent coming off a broken leg. I know they got Kool-Aid. They got Alontae Taylor, who you could play for inside, outside. He's more of a defensive back. I'd think about him for the Saints. I would think about him for the Bears. I'd probably go with Jeanty, though, because you got Jalen Johnson, who's just phenomenal. Tyreek Stevenson, he's had his ups and downs. Terrell Smith has played really well. They've kind of had a rotation at the outside corner spot. So I would say Will Johnson's a thought. I would say he's a thought there. The Niners, you paid Diamador Lenore. You got Charvarius Ward, who's a free agent. Renardo Green, who they drafted last year. But I mean, Lenore plays a good amount of slots, so like he's on the table for the Niners. You can make a case, maybe for the Cowboys. Probably not. I would consider him for the Dolphins, certainly. Kendall Fuller technically, sneakily could be a post-June first cut. But golly, going to the Colts here, I actually really like that. I really like that. That's exceptional talent, exceptional value. We got the Atlanta Falcons, pick 15. They go with Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Okay, let's read this one real quick. Kenneth Grant is one of the best athletes in this defensive line class, despite tipping the scales over 330 pounds. He's only scratching the surface of what would become on tape, of what he could become on tape. There we go. Golly, reading, stay in school, kids. Falcons need all the help that they could get along the defensive line. Okay, I don't mind it. I think I'd still prefer to go with a pass rusher. They've invested quite a bit on interior players, not like to the girthiness of Grant. They got guys like Brandon Dorless and golly, I'm blanking. Ruka Rohoro. You do have Grady Jarrett still there, and he's still a good player. Yeah, it's like you want an edge player desperately. All right, we got Arizona Cardinals. They're gonna go with Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. Oh man, yeah. Like I think if you're the Cardinals, you're taking defensive line, edge, interior, whatever. You want a front seven player, but we're talking specifically you want a defensive lineman. And Harmon would be nice, man. Harmon would be nice. People sleep on him. I don't know why still. I think he leads defensive interiors in this class in pressures. His win rate was really good. I could bring it up right now. He had a win rate, I think, of 17.6%, which is the second highest in this class. The only one that has a higher win rate is Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee, but he doesn't play the run that well. And I think Derek Harmon does play the run well. It's just, unfortunately, he's had a few missed tackles this year. Needs to be more of a consistent finisher, but at Michigan State, he was pretty darn good at defending the run. So like what he brings as a pass rusher is just kind of usurps even some of the deficiencies this year against the run. We got Colston Loveland going to the Cincinnati Bengals, and I know Bengals fans aren't going to love this pickup. They're just not. But T. Higgins, he could be gone after this season. If that's the case, who was the biggest benefactor from T. Higgins not being on the field? It was Mike Gesicki, who is also a free agent. Some of y'all believe in Eric All. I wasn't that high on Eric All. He was a 4th round draft pick. I'm not that invested in Eric All. You want to take a swing at Colston Loveland? I get it. I still prefer to go with the defensive line. There's guys like Nick Scorton here. Jalen Walker's still on the board. Interior, Shamar Stewart, who's kind of a pseudo interior player. Like there's players there. Pick 18. We got Armand Membu, offensive tackle / guard, going to the Seattle Seahawks. Dude, Membu is amazing. He's crushed it at right tackle for the Tigers. There we go, Missouri. He just has a guard build, 6'3". They have him up to 225 pounds. Is that where I have him at? I don't think so. I have him at 314 still, but 325. Yeah, you're talking about a guard, which is fine. That's something the Seahawks desperately need. But he's so athletic and has done a phenomenal job at tackle. I would not mind playing him at tackle in the NFL. Like Abraham Lucas, you can't trust him. Stay healthy. So throwing him on the outside, if Lucas goes down, I don't think is a bad option. I really don't. But before we get to pick 19, let's shout out our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Go ahead, download the app, and when you sign up, use promo code BROSHMO, and they will match your first deposit up to $1,000. It's the best place for weekly best ball because, yes, it's still around despite being in the playoffs for the NFL. You can still do weekly best ball, or you could do higher or lower on player stats. And it's not just the NFL. They do basketball, they do baseball, they do all kinds of sports, cricket, esports. It's ludicrous. You can get in on the action regardless of what sport you want to lay down the cheddar on. But when you do sign up, use that promo code Broshmo to take advantage of a ludicrous offer. And they also have a ton of promos each and every day. So it's a fun way to play, but as always, play responsibly and play within your means. Let's go ahead, get into pick 19 here, as it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to go Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. I don't mind this one. With Levante David, up there in years, still playing good football, but you haven't been able to, even if he comes back, you haven't found someone that can play consistently next to him. I mean, dating back to like Devin White and such. So you could grab Campbell, who's got that blitzing upside, who could be a pass rusher off the edge. And he gives you a little bit of that Levante David feeling too. So I can see why NFL teams could be high on Jahad Campbell. Denver Broncos are going to go with Luther Burden, the third wide receiver out of Mizzou. So we see him falling. We also see, it's important to note, I don't think we've seen Tyler Warren come off the board yet, but Burden, he brings you great yak ability. You could also play him in the backfield, which is great because, well, the Broncos, they currently have been having troubles at the running back position as well. So he could give you a little lift as a running back as well as a return man. But he gives Bo Nix a great after the catch target. Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go with Emeka Ibuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. I love this pick. Getting a receiver that can be a consistent chain mover, because that's Ibuka. He's also shown that he can win vertically. He's shown that he can play not just in the slot, but on the outside. And coming from Ohio State, he's a good run blocker as well, man. Brian Hartline, that dude teaches his wide receiving core to freaking run block. So I'm sure Mike Tomlin and company would love that. We got the Chargers going with Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. Hella fun pick here. Jim Harbaugh would love this, getting a guy that can not just block, but also be a threat as a pass catcher. Warren has had a wonderful season. I liked him coming into the year. I was like, golly, liked his tape way better than I expected. And then he just freaking exploded in terms of just production. It was insane. Utterly insane. Green Bay Packers, they're going to go with Jahdae Barron, corner out of Texas. Man, this dude doesn't get talking about enough. If you want to check out, I just released my cornerback rankings yesterday where I talk about Jahdae Barron. I was like, man, I think in the right system, he has the makings to be a stud. This dude just won the Jim Thorpe Award. He was a first-team All-SEC. And you know he can play in the slot, but now you know he can play outside at an exceptionally high level. Keep in mind, he did this in the SEC this past season. Obviously, the Packers, Jair Alexander, he's hurt all the time. Eric Stokes, he's a free agent. So, yeah, corner does feel like probably one of the best gets. Defense in general, I think for the Packers, you could go with defensive line. I'd be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Donovan Jackson, guard out of Ohio State, going to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, no secret, Ed Ingram kind of isn't good. So you be getting a guy here who also kicked outside a tackle, and honestly, like, okay, he had his struggles against Penn State and Abdul Carter, but that was like, I think his first start at tackle. And he's, especially in the playoffs since then, he's been really good. Really good at that tackle. Not saying he's a tackle in the NFL, but it makes you think. Okay, we got the Houston Texans. They're going to go with Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. I am a Walter Nolan truther. I think the best has yet to come. This is a guy that added weight and finally started to live up to that 5-star potential. Let's actually read what he says here. Because for one, we already know the Texans. Their defensive interior is at best mid. So if you could elevate the talent there, that'd be great. So Walter Nolan is an explosive interior weapon who would take the Texans defensive line to another level. Everyone knows the Houston edge duo is capable of, or at least what they're capable of. But the defense has been susceptible in the middle. That wouldn't be the case with the former 5-star recruit in the fold. Haha. Yeah, I like the pick here. Pick 26, Los Angeles Rams. They're going to go with Jalen Walker, edge out of Georgia. I'm going to read this one. I'm surprised Walker kind of slipped. The Rams love their athletes along the defensive line, and few are going to have profiles as impressive as Jalen Walker. He can affect the passer from on or off the line of scrimmage and be another piece to the Rams' increasingly terrifying blitz package. So, I mean, if you're drafting him here, I think the expectation is to play off ball as well. Because I don't want to draft a guy that's not playing 400 to 500 snaps at least every year in the NFL. That's just not sexy to me. So this is definitely an interesting pick. We got Mike Green, edge out of Marshall, going to the Commanders. I love this, dude. I love Mike Green. Definitely Washington could do something to get better in the pass rushing department. They have a solid group of players, but let's be honest, a lot of their pressure does come from bringing in, extra pressure. Bringing in a blitzer, whether it's like a Bobby Wagner or a Frankie Louvu. So grabbing some guys to enforce your talent there out on the edge, I think is a good call. Baltimore Ravens are going to take Shamar Stewart, defensive lineman out of Texas A&M. Listen, this dude is 6'6", 290 pounds. He is a phenomenal athlete. I don't know why people are sleeping on him. Maybe it's because he's a bit of a tweener, and if you think he's an edge, I don't think he's a true edge player. But I think if you're going to use him in a versatile role, that's probably where the money is going to be made. I truly do believe that. So, like, I kind of like the fit here. I kind of like the fit because it helps improve your defensive line, which, to be fair, I think that they need to bring in some guys to make that pass rush a little bit more scary. Buffalo Bills are going to go with Nick Scorton, edge out of Texas A&M. So you got the Texas A&M guys going back to back. So, yeah, this one's kind of fun, man. I think this one's really fun. Like, you get another freakish edge player across from Gregory Rousseau. Makes sense to me. They tried to, what did they double dip in that draft? They brought in Boogie Basham, and things just didn't work out with him. And you're looking for that guy. You're looking for essentially an upgrade over, because AJ Epenesa, I think, is a very solid rotation player, early down edge player, but you certainly want to increase the talent level along that defensive line. All right, pick 30 is David Walker, edge out of Central Arkansas. Wow, this is wild. I love the upside of David Walker. And I mean, this was someone that could have gone and played in the power forward, decided to stay at Central Arkansas. Could have came out on last year's draft. And maybe this feels too Jalix Hunt to me. But I mean, there is a need at the pass rusher position for the Eagles. You got Milton Williams, and he's a free agent. Joshua Sweat's a free agent. You got Brandon Graham likely to retire. So I think that makes quite a bit of sense with David Walker, but I think he's a bit raw as a prospect coming from lower level competition. I don't know if I love that pick in the first round, but I'm thinking we're here at pick 30, and Mike Renner is trying to throw some names out maybe you're not aware of. I did talk about him in my hidden gems. I was talking about some of the small school prospects in this class I made like a month ago. All right, we got round 1, pick 31, and Jared Ivey, edge out of, defensive lineman out of Ole Miss, going to the Chiefs. I think that The Chiefs, I think they could take a swing on defensive line early in this class, right? Whether it's the interior, whether it's the edge, with how gifted this defensive line class is in general, I think the Chiefs are going to be a buyer in this draft. I haven't seen first round love for Jared Ivey. I got him more as a day 2 player just because he is a bit of a tweener at 6'6", 285. But golly, he played so well off the edge this year. Let me just pull up what he did this year as a pass rusher. A 14.9% win rate, 38 pressures, 8 sacks. Was a very solid tackling in space, 6% missed tackle rate. So he would be an interesting body there to include with a George Karlaftis, a Felix Imedike Uzama. But I mean, he's kind of really just been a rotation player anyway. So I kind of like it. All right, with the final pick, Jack Sawyer, edge out of Ohio State's going to Detroit. Listen, this is like one of the most Dan Campbell guys. You can't really argue that. And this dude is just producing. He has been a dominant force, especially during the college football playoff. And he might not have like the high end traits or tools. You can't argue with the production. You really can't. Big motor guy. And as a lot of people say with the Detroit Lions, would be a culture fit. But that's it for the video. Go ahead. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, do the YouTube thing. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe. Become a bro and subscribe. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.